Long ago, there was once an island that was thriving with monsters. An island where monsters sang with joy and laughter filling the air. It was truly an island filled with life and excitement. The monsters who lived in such paradise would often go on trips along the island, such as fishing, camping, and sometimes looking for fascinating treasures underwater. After their magnificent journeys, they would all gather around a campfire in the evening to tell their amazing adventures and stories. But one night, as they huddled together around the fire, getting ready for their weekly get-together, one of the monsters heard a haunting noise in the distance. There was something in the woods, and the curious monster couldn't figure anything out. So he called the rest of his friends to help him discover that unusual sound. As they searched through the forest, one of them suddenly spotted a silhouette. It was very unusual. It was a figure that was frightening yet enchanting. Its long legs were like the tall, hollow trees, and its head was as flat as a plate with 3 glowing green eyes. It was truly a monster, but it had a shining light that it would wave back and forth. Its greenish light, it would waver, was so soothing to the monsters that they approached the being. As they walked closer and closer to the green light, the monster came out and revealed himself to them. They all jumped back as the monster slowly advanced towards them, but only one out of the many monsters stood their ground and approached it. When they came face to face, the monster got a closer look at it. The monster looked up, then down, then up again, and saw that the color of its skin blended in with the darkness as the monster bent down to look at him. He was almost frightened by its movement, but he realized that it didn't attack him, so it must have been friendly. The monster kindly gave it one of its s'mores. It's been saving for a snack. The monster started eating the s'more, and while he munched down on the snack, he asked for its name. The monster replied to him, saying that it refers to itself as a nobody, a creature that lurks in the shadows alone, a shadow quad. Heartbroken, the kind monster asked if they would like to join them around the fire to share stories and have fun. The monster agreed, and it went with them, although many of his friends were a bit skeptical about letting in a random stranger to come to their abode. But the kind monster was empathetic and insisted on helping this quad, so they all agreed and traveled back to their campsite to have a party. After that night, many of the monsters started to feel comfortable with the quad, and they were all becoming friends. Inviting the quad to play games and go on fishing and sea diving trips with them as well, the kind monster was happy seeing everyone getting along with the quad, and things felt so serene. One night, the kind monster had a bad dream and woke up to take a stroll around the castle until he spotted one of his fellow friends lying on the ground unconscious. The kind monster yelled, "Hey, are you okay? Wake up, talk to me." But there was no movement in the monster's body until finally it woke up and said, "Where am I? Who are you?" It seemed that his friend didn't remember him at all, and he looked kind of pale. The kind monster was terrified, so he grabbed his friend's hand and ran towards the campfire to possibly cool him down and remove the paleness of his skin. But as he lit the fire, he noticed something. His friend doesn't have a shadow. The kind monster was terrified, but just as he was about to open his mouth, a glowing green light shone above him, and he was losing focus, and he collapsed on the ground and was in a deep sleep. That green light was enough to wake one of the monsters, and they were curious as to what was happening, so they got out of bed and walked towards the campfire. But standing there, they saw a tall, shadowy figure standing above the kind monster. As he was about to approach them to see what was happening, he saw the quad eating the kind monster's shadow, and the kind monster started to grow pale. The monster, terrified, backed up and ran away, but tripped on a fallen log. The loud thud was enough for the shadow quad to give chase on the monster. But as he was about to get up, he grew faint and lightheaded, as if something was sucking the life force out of him. The shadow quad started to eat away his shadow, and the monster grew unconscious. After that, the shadow quad started to go to the other residents of the island, stripping their shadow away from them, and soon enough everyone grew pale and fainted. The shadow quad grew sticky pink residue around its legs as it ate more and more shadows. Taking one's shadow allows the quad to copy the owner's melodic ability to sing and dance, but results in them forgetting their memories and turning pale. The quad grew bigger in size, but it felt like something was missing, so he walked back towards the kind monster and said, "Your kindness will never be forgotten." And it started to steal the kind monster's soul and encase it into its own shadow. As it stole the soul of the kind monster, his shadow grew alive and began to cackle, saying, "We will always be together now." Once the work was done, the shadow quad used its sticky pink residue to open a rift and walk towards it, leaving the scene. The island was so bare that it began to fade off the face of the monster world, and every monster that did survive lost its memory and had forgotten how to sing. Eventually, their own clouded thoughts were the downfall of these monsters, as they started to leave the island and go on their own journeys seeking something. But as they traveled, the shadowless monsters began turning into darkness, and all of their emotions, features, and symphonies began to fade away. And they merged with the shadows in the bottomless pit of the ocean. Now the Shadow Quad, now known as Pentumbra, began a new life, traveling among the rift, seeking to find a new home. But he's not alone anymore, as the soul of his best friend, the living shadow, can now keep him company, and he never felt loneliness again.